Hello, today we are going to record a new lesson, Going Places. And this story that we are going to do today, it is written by A.R. Bartan. This is quite unusual kind of a story, you can say. Unusual in the sense different from another stories. In this story, you will come to know there are two girls. One is Sophie and another is Jancy. In the onset of the story, in the very starting of the story, you will come to know they are coming back from school. And as that happens, you people also do so. They are talking to each other. And during the talk, Sophie tells Jancy that she wants to become a manager in the boutique. And Sophie says they would not make you a manager strictly. You cannot become a manager. But Sophie is Sophie. She does not heed to Jancy, who is quite a bit a realistic kind of girl. And she is saying, no problem. If they would not make me manager, I will become an actress. And I think for becoming an actress, there is no qualification. And I will become an artist who is natural, like Mary Quant. This is a reference, or you can say allusion, about an artist. She was a natural actor. So this is the first paragraph that you will come to know. These both girls are coming back from school, and Sophie and Jancy, they are talking, right? After that, Sophie goes to her house, and there we find a condition of her house. Jancy goes to her house, and there is nothing given in the story about the kind of thing in the house of Jancy, but typically you can say whatever is the case with Sophie, same would be there for Jancy also. So when Sophie is coming into the house, or you can say just a room only, in that room whole family is there. Her father, who is eating an apple pie, her younger brother, Derek, her mother in the kitchen, and you see kitchen is also there in the house only, in that particular room only. So that is the case. Only a single room, three children, mother, father, they are living in the single room. So this is the reality that writer is talking about. See, stark poverty. And there is Sophie, who is not ready to compromise with that situation in the house. See how strong she is. And there is one more character there, that is Geoff. Geoff is elder brother of Sophie, and he has left the school because they are poor, they cannot afford higher studies. So now he is an apprentice mechanic. Apprentice means he is learning how to repair bikes and getting some money also. And in the story it is shown that on the newspaper he has put on some nuts and bolts and repairing her bike. While repairing, Sophie, while he is repairing that bike, Sophie happens to see Geoff, who never talks to anybody in the house so much, or you can say very little, rarely he talks. But he is talking to nuts and bolts as if they are having life, because this repairing has become his life. Like fantasies, imaginations, dreamings, they have become life for Sophie. She cannot live without them. And she is telling Geoff, do you know, I met Danny Casey? And Geoff laughs and he says, one of the stories that you make, now this is another story you are going to tell me. But she is saying, no, I am telling you seriously. You know, you have the poster there in the room. You feel Danny Casey is so tall. He is not so tall. He is quite a bit shorter than that, as he seems to be in the poster. And he is having bright eyes like gazelle. Gazelle here means kind of deer. He is very innocent kind of boy. I met him in the arcade. Now Sophie seemed quite a bit convincing to Geoff. And this happens with all of us. If we are passionate about something, craving for something, if somebody happens to say something about that particular thing, you get attracted. Same way, Geoff. And he also told father that, see, father, Sophie had met Danny Casey. Father, like all the fathers of the world, very strict, ready to speak, not to listen. He told Sophie, Sophie, either you mend your ways, either you stop this daydreaming, fantasizing, or going wild in your imaginations. Otherwise, one day you are going to be there in any problem. He doesn't believes. And I know all fathers, they know their daughters very well. So he doesn't believes. When he is not believing, it is quite natural because every day Sophie was coming up with a new story. But there is another character here. Mother of Sophie. She is feeling awful. Awful means very painful, disgusting, very awkward that this girl is not going to improve her ways. What condition we are living, and she talks like that. And there was Derek enjoying all that. He is small. So this is another scene that we find. First one, both Jancy and Sophie coming back from school. Sophie telling Jancy that she wants to become a manager in the boutique. Jancy objecting that they would not straightly make her a manager. Then again she is saying she would become an actress. She would have a big house like all other actresses. She would also open a boutique like they all do. Other than acting, when they are free, they involve themselves in other businesses. Same way she would do. Second scene that we had seen, house of Sophie, how poor they are. Then we had seen father of Sophie, very strict, reprimanding Sophie, chiding to improve her manners, imaginations, fantasies, wild stories, whatever you say. He is not believing her. Mother, you saw, feeling very bad. Derek, younger to Sophie, just enjoying, having fun like all other children. Then there is Geoff. Now Sophie thinks as she is thinking about Danny Casey, same way her brother must have been having some secrets. But Geoff was not a boy who was like Sophie, who is always talking. He rarely spoke, and whenever he spoke very little, knowing how precious words are. But sometimes we find we need to strike a balance. How much we are going to speak, whether it is required or not. But many times we come to know that we speak like Sophie so much. Nobody is listening to us. Still, we are full of ideas, imaginations, wildernesses, creativities. May be good, but may not be required. Like many of you do in classes and during audio sessions also. But on the other hand, there are other people like Geoff. They do not speak at all. Very less, very rare, very little. But that is also not good. Because many times you saw in the history, people they were very noble. They were very strong. They had so much of power. But they did not come out to speak because they were not decisive. And as a result, a very high price the world had paid. Here we find both the characters. There is Sophie speaking so much, Geoff speaking so less, Jancy so deep rooted in reality that she thinks that both Sophie and she, there is no other thing in the world except biscuit factory where they are going to work, and that is their destiny. So that is also not good, that you are not going beyond than whatever you had fixed in your mind. So we cannot justify neither Sophie nor Jancy Her father also cannot be justified. Maybe he is right with his advice, nor Geoff. But Sophie does not stop here. He does not care whether Geoff is feeling good or bad. She keeps on fantasizing that she is going on bike with her brother, putting on a very nice dress, and whole world is welcoming her. But you find in reality, if you go in the society, this is not the case. You will find you requires a lot of efforts to make your place in the society. Everywhere there is a struggle. There is one job, hundreds, sometimes thousands people are applying. This is the reality. But people like Sophie, they are in their own world, they are in their own utopia, own idealisms. So you cannot do anything for them. You cannot stop them. You can stop them from speaking, but you cannot stop them from going into fantasies. And again, there is a new scene that you come to see in the story, and that is when Geoff, his father, Sophie, and Derek, they all generally go in the weekend to see the football match. There is a question that also comes. That was a kind of pilgrimage, a religious kind of thing. Football was religion for them. And there comes the question of hero worship. Like many of you who love cricket, you so adore your players. Same was the case with Danny Casey. He was such a brilliant football player that he scored a very decisive goal for his team, dodging all the backs and fullbacks one by one, and ultimately goalkeeper, and scored a very lightning goal, smash kind of thing. No chance for goalkeeper. And there you find both Geoff and father, they are very happy. And father goes to pub, nearby pub for celebrating, and Geoff comes back in the house. Meantime, you have another scene there. And what is the case? Sophie. Sophie had fixed a date from her side only. Danny Casey is not knowing that Danny Casey had told her to come to the harbor and there they would meet and nobody would be there. She goes to the place where there is only one tree, that in the story you will find solitary M, ELM. Nobody else, and Sophie is waiting for Danny Casey. But Danny Casey is not there. He hasn't turned up because he was not knowing. Only Sophie, she fixed her date with Danny Casey herself. She keeps on waiting, he doesn't turn up, and now it is getting dark. She feels very bad, but she is so positive. She thinks maybe Danny Casey must have been very busy today, but she would meet again somewhere in the mall or any other place. And she is coming back. And she was thinking what her father and her brother would think when she would tell that Danny Casey, she did not turn up. But she doesn't bother. So here you find she keeps waiting. Danny Casey is not coming. She is so attached in her fantasies with that football player. And that is the case of her date. So is the case with all the people, those who are in their fantasies. They are not deep rooted in the reality. They are just flying. And sometimes they do not get what they think. So here you find she is not able to meet Danny Casey. In the exam you will have question about Danny Casey, you will have question about Jancy and Sophie, you would have question about Geoff, and we will discuss. See, this is the story where there is hero worship, where there is teenagers' fantasies, how they are not rooted in reality. Sometimes they are rooted so much, like Jancy and Geoff. So this is all about teenage problems, or you can say teenage situations. So whatever question, whatever doubt, whatever problems you have, you feel, you write on the WhatsApp. We will discuss all 5 stories. Any question from any story, anytime you can ask, I will take all, any kind of questions. And for asking the questions, you need to download NCRT app, download both the books, read the stories. Any problem you feel, we will start from tomorrow. Lesson 1, lesson 2, lesson 3, lesson 4, lesson 5, any question from anywhere. But particularly from lesson 1 we will do tomorrow. But all questions are welcomed. Thank you. Have a nice day.